Today we're going over the Engage New Heroes banner. This badge brings us the base version of Yunaka, who's going to be an aided hero. Our 3 other spots go to characters from Engage's Fell Xenologue DLC. As a fair warning, there are unavoidable spoilers from these units. If you care about the Fell Xenologue plot, then you should try to finish it ASAP. With that being said, our new additions to Fae are Zelestia, Rafal, and Rearmed Nel, who's in her base outfit. If you don't mind spoilers, the Fell Xenologue takes place in an alternate Helios. To give us playable versions of the 4 Hounds, there are alternate characters. Zelestia is the Zephyr counterpart. In that universe, they are known as the 4 Winds. If you thought one Marnie was bad, wait till we get Marnie 2. Interestingly, while Zephyr was a heroic rail unit, Zelestia will be our 3 to 4 star demote. You can get her at 4 to 5 star rarity for this banner. She will demote after it is over. As a unit, Zelestia is a flying green mage, which makes her the very first flying mage in the demo pool. Fun fact, we haven't gotten a flying green free-to-play unit since Mini Minerva. That was almost 5 years ago. On the 3 to 4 star demote side, Zelestia is only the 2nd green flyer added since launch. She's also the only non-5 star green flying mage. Class rarity may not be benefiting for Zelestia, but stat-wise, she's alright. 40 HP, 43 attack, 47 speed, 24 defense, and 30 res. She has a speed super boon, and is going to be a pretty typical offensive squishy flying mage. For old skills, Zelestia has Moonbow, and then 2 nice fodder skills of Attack and Speed Catch 3 and Attack and Speed Rain 3. Nothing game breaking, but Attack and Speed Catch 3 was only otherwise on Zephyr herself. This is the first time Attack and Speed Rain is on a non-5 star unit. Zelestia has the Green Lantern plus Tome, 12 might every turn. If within 2 spaces of an ally, grant the cannot be slowed by terrain status and the breath type cooldown status to the user. If initiating or near an ally, you get +5 attack and res in combat. The Lantern Tomes come from Kadean Soren's Magical Lantern Plus. This is a 2-year-old weapon. Soren has the blue version, Hayato has the red, and Zelestia brings in the green one. For flyers, the only terrain they get slowed by are things like flame tiles or water tiles. Otherwise, this effect is more useful on a Mage Cav who can move past trenches or an Infantry Mage who can move through forests. The breath type cooldown effect is quite nice for units like Zelestia, but that +5 attack and res isn't exactly crazy. Zelestia will be a very rare class, but pretty much all of these types of units are just pure offensive focused. You can use her good attack and speed to trigger Desperation, but we don't have no follow-up like Zephyr has. You can use a Crux Cisco or Slice with Sparrow for a free follow-up. The Lantern Tome's 2 statuses will actually trigger the Slide True Damage portion. If you want actional follow-up, you can use Oddspeed Wave 4. Either way, Zelestia hopefully outspeeds for a Desperation double. She can charge Moonbow Glimmer or Ruptured Sky on hit 1, proc it on hit 2, that's about it. If you have Rearmed Sonya, Arcane Caliburnus is basically a better Lantern Tome. You lose the not slowed by terrain status, but you'd have Slaying with breath type cooldown and a free follow-up. Zelestia could upgrade to Luna or Icebird. Now if you don't run Desperation, or a Wind/Water Sweep with no follow-up setup like a Zephyr, then you're pretty much just open to counterattacks. If you want to try and have a chance at surviving, Arcane Truthfire is the best bet. It gives way more stats than Caliburnus, and it has 7 flat DR. You could then try to run Remote A skills, Brash Assault 4, or Fleeting Echo. Not crazy good, but it's something. If you don't care about survivability, Zelestia is free to mix and match any of the offensive skills Mage Flyers can run. Flurried Sparrow plus the Cultist's Strike, Attack and Speed Mastery for Kanto, Resonance for DR Piercing, Fart Trace for Kanto, Daily Miasma, etc. If you wanted to trigger Frost Moon, Caliburnus could do it with Emblem Marth and a double. Truthfire would need Heavy Blade and a double. Now if you build all attack and speed, Frost Moon is going to do insane damage. This is a situation where I think Resonance is just the better option if you wanted piercing. Besides offensive initiations, Zelestia can supply flyer mobility. Truthfire's warp status could do well with guidance for warping. Air Orders 4 is a fun option for flyer teams if you want to charge. Fart Trace Echo could open up a slot while still retaining Kanto for these types of skills. All in all, Zelestia is a super cool demo. There's just only so much you can do with a flying mage. If you have not finished the Fell Xenologue, our next unit may be confusing. All I'm going to say is that you should finish the story or face spoilers at your own risk. Our second unit of the banner is Nil, or Rafal. I thought it was a bit weird to have another dragon character with the same name, but Blazing Blades Nils can keep the S to himself because turns out Engage's Nil is not actually a Nil. Rafal is a major character of the DLC, and he'll be a red armored dragon in Fae. For stats, Rafal has 44 HP, 47 attack, 27 speed, 49 defense, and 40 res. He has a defense super boon, but that 27 speed is a little suspect. Most 5-star armors are fully min-maxed for low speed. Rafal will boost his own speed, but he's not a dual Furum type speedster. For old skills, Rafal is going to have Armored Blaze. This is the bonfire special with 40% DR against melee foes. Rafal's weapon is the Fell Xenologue. It grants +4 to all stats and inflicts guard on foes for allies within 3 spaces. If an ally has an Emblem Ring, Rafal grants another +4 stats. For his own combat, Rafal has a 16-might slaying Dragonstone effective against cavalry. If foe initiates or has more than 75% HP, Rafal gets bonus stats equal to 5 plus the number of allies within 3 spaces, times 3. If there are 3 nearby allies, Rafal can get up to 14 to all stats. If he triggers Savior, this is automatically +14 as well. For other effects, Rafal gets true damage and flat DR equal to 20% defense. He inflicts guard on the foe, and before the foe's first attack, Rafal gets -1 instant cooldown. For the most part, a simpler weapon. True damage, flat DR, guard, and the Goose Friend style cooldown. Cavalry effectiveness is interesting to catch up mobile horses with his savior. Hopefully the extra damage can help Rafal punch through some of the incoming damage reduction. The other interesting part of this weapon is the 3-space spectrum drive buff with guard. If Rafal's ally has an Emblem Ring, +8 to all stats is quite hefty. This is one of those units where stacking multiple copies could be kind of funny. For his inheritable A skill, Rafal brings attack and defense scale 4. If foe initiates or is more than 75% HP, you get +7 attack and defense, and if the foe uses an offensive special, and the user has more than 5 res than the enemy, you inflict +1 cooldown on the foe before they attack. Unlike the Scowl A skill for dragons, this one doesn't boost res, and the Scowl skill requires a res check. Rafal doesn't have terrible starting res, but he's not exactly stacking a ton. It's going to be fine for his playstyle, but use this variant at your own risk. For his other inheritable skill, Rafal has attack and res twin near save. Twin save re-enables % effects from offensive specials to work 2 times in combat. It also adds 7 HP healing on hit, which is good for sustain. Twin saves are great with the armored specials. If you want bonus res to tank dragons or just adaptive damage melee users, then you can go with this variant. Of course, Rafal can also use it for skill activation. Unfortunately, Rafal is going to be a tough sell. A Hero Rises potentially might give everyone one of the 3 best armored tanks in the game. 2 of them are red, and all 3 will be on a banner next month. Rafal has a much simpler kit compared to those guys. True damage, flat DR, and guard with instant cooldown before the foe attacks. With this effect, Rafal seems intended to run Dragon Scales, which also grants -1 cooldown before getting hit. With -2 cooldown, Rafal can charge Armored Blaze, which triggers its 40% DR effect. You have the flat DR from his weapon, and then Twin Save can trigger the % DR power twice. Dragon Scales has a follow-up with 50% DR piercing to help KO attackers. Throw in Scowl, and hopefully that's enough to survive. If you don't have Dragon Scales, Emblem March Sling would also work. For passives, you could also use Wily or Slick Fighter 4. Rafal is going to get 40% defense as true damage and flat DR with a free follow-up. If you're planning to run Rafal with Nel, you're going to want Slick Fighter's debuff neutralization. For other skills, Rafal can run the usual tanking options like Stronghold, Tier 4 boost skills, higher or lower ground, or Briar save skills. Dragon's Roar can give % DR against melee and ranged foes, but then you really need to run the res check. There is a lot more high res range units. Now if you use Shield Fighter, Rafal can actually charge Pavis. However, that only works with the first attack. Shield Fighter's potency is that it can work for possibly 3 out of 4 hits of a quad, but you're going to need Emblem Mart's help for that. Now if you wanted regular % DR, Rafal can use Canny Fighter or High Dragon Wall, the Dragon's Wrath Sacred Seal, and Guard Echo or other options. Overall, Rafal can do fine as a general melee saver, but he doesn't have anything exceptionally crazy. If anything, you can try to go heavy into a one-shotting with the cavalry effectiveness playstyle. Once we get a near save Briar skill, that may be worth a consideration over Twin Save. The main new character for the DLC is Nel. The base game has like 1 cannon lance fighter and 0 playable dragons, so Nel's class using lances and dragonstones is actually quite neat. I really wanted Nel with her lance that I can't pronounce, but I knew they're just going to make her a dragon. Now, for this base version, Rearmed Nel is a blue infantry dragon. She has 38 HP, 44 attack, 47 speed, 30 defense, and 40 res. Speed super boon is nice, though Nel's base HP is a little low. She's going to go for the higher res focus because she is going to do some res checking. For old skills, Dragon's Roar is one of those res checking skills if you want the 40% unpierceable DR. Nel is the second unit to also have Barricade after Marauder. She has some stat focused support, so Barricade can pair nicely, plus you get the Warp Bubble effect. Our third Arcane Dragonstone is going to be the Arcane Fell Arts. 16-might slaying weapon. If foe initiates or has more than 25% HP, gain bonus stats equal to 25% of the foe's attack from start of combat at -4. If the foe has 72 flat attack, you can get a max +14 to all stats. Further effects, you get true damage and flat DR equal to 15% attack. Both of these affect AoE specials. For more cooldown, you have breath type cooldown for every action, and then -1 instant cooldown before your first attack, continuing the current arcane trend. Our last Arcane Dragonstone was from last year with Rearmed Fallen Lumera. It's recent enough that the stat boost is the exact same, and it's another Slaying plus breath type cooldown weapon. Arcane Fellstone has 40% regular DR, Fell Arts has flat DR and extra true damage. Fellstone has no follow-up, Fell Arts has the instant cooldown effect. Generally speaking, these two are kinda on par for the most part. No follow-up can be tougher to come by for non-infantry, but the devs have committed to pushing out a lot of no follow-up support sources. If you don't need it, then Fell Arts is just kinda better, although the flat DR may not equal 40% DR. That's a whole other topic. If you don't trust regular percent DR, then that's another point for Fell Arts. When it comes to Arcane Grima, it just has way less stats than its successors. It has a free follow-up, which is good, and the same true damage as Fell Arts. Grima has healing instead of damage reduction, but you can't heal if you're dead, so yeah. For these slower dragons, if you can get a follow-up from elsewhere or you don't care about that, then Fell Arts is just kind of a clear upgrade. To help herself stand out, Nel has a unique A skill called Protective. Foes within 3 rows or 3 columns are inflicted with -5 to all stats, and their field bows are neutralized. For Nel, if she is healthy, she gets +9 to all stats, 50% DR piercing, and then we have 3 separate conditions. First, if the foe is engaged or Nel has 5 or more res than the foe, she gets flat DR equal to 15% of the foe's attack during combat. Second, if the foe uses an offensive special, Nel inflicts +1 cooldown on the foe before they attack. Third, if Nel's support partner has less than full health, or there's an ally within 2 spaces that is at less than full health, she gets 15 true damage on special triggers. With Arcane Fell Arts and Protective, Nel gets quite a lot of in-combat stats, potentially +20 to everything if you were to include the -5 debuffs on this passive. Now Protective will come with a Scowl that doesn't use a res check. However, Nel does have a res check for the flat DR portion. You can skip this if the foe has an Emblem Ring. For the last effect, the true damage on special proc thing, this is a very awkward condition. Nel needs an ally to be hurt. If it's her support partner, they can be anywhere on the map. If it's not, they have to be within 2 spaces. Nel does not inflict any kind of self-team damage, so you can't trigger this effect without your allies fighting beforehand, or you need a unit like Bernie who can hurt the team each turn. If you want that 15 true damage, you may want to consider that when picking allies. Nel will bring a new inheritable B skill called Edge Scales. This is a new Dragon B skill, and it's a tier 4 variant of Dragon's Wrath 3. It is very different though. If the foe initiates or a unit has 125% HP, inflict -4 speed, defense, and res, deal true damage equal to 15% of the foe's attack, gain 10 flat DR for first attacks with an S, increase the speed roll for doubling from the enemy by 10, and last, if you have higher speed, you get full no follow-up effects. Instead of Arcane Fellstone, Nel offers a no follow-up alternative to pair with Fell Arts. This skill should look familiar because it's almost exactly the same as the armored Clever Fighter. No follow-up, tougher to follow up, and 10 flat damage reduction. The only difference is the extra true damage. If you want to have no follow-up to have the advantage against slower foes and make it tougher to be outsped by faster guys, then Edge Scales is decent. The Dragon Scales B skill might be better for the slower tankier dragons. Edge Scales is definitely more of a high speed option. Rearmed Nel is going to be a speedy all-around type dragon. We've seen this a bunch with units like the Corins. Nel has a good amount of bonus stats and she provides long range debuffs with low. Barricade neutralizes defense and res debuffs, so a decent amount of stat control on this unit. For a general enemy phase, Nel inflicts Scowl. She's not going to trigger Dragon Sword's 40% DR, but she has 3 flat DR sources from her weapon, Protective and Edge Scales. When hit, she has Breath type cooldown to charge Dragon's Roar, and she has the -1 instant cooldown to counteract Scowl. Now her counterattack will be a special that has 3 true damage sources. Unfortunately, 15 of that true damage only happens if Nel has a hurt ally. She will get 50% piercing though, and is fast with no follow-up to double. The timing of Dragon's Roar's percent DR is awkward. You can't run it with Lagu's Friend, though you could try to pre-charge it with times pulse effects. You could use Dragon's Scales to get -1 cooldown before getting hit, and then with Emblem Art that would charge it. You could instead do Lagu's Friend builds with Glaciers or defensive specials. Dragon's Roar's advantage though is that its percent DR works for melee and ranged encounters. Now, Nel can fight ranged units with distant counter. If possible, you do kind of just want to continue buffing all her stats. For other skills, Spiked Wall is a true damage and flat DR option with Bulwark to pair with Barricade. Maybe you have no follow-up support. If you don't need Barricade, Nel can instead use even Res Wave D for a second Scowl effect and Res buffs. Her base Res isn't the highest, but you can stat refine Arcane Fell Arts for +4 resistance and get a Res boom. If you do that, maybe Nel could also add Ploy support on top of Protective's debuffs. For Tune skills, Times plus Echo would allow Nel to initiate and proc Dragon's Roar. If she gets hit back, she can recharge and proc it again on a follow-up. If you want no Guard, Tempo Echo is fun with Scowl. You should try to get Guard as well. Dragons aren't very player phase inclined, but there is potential for Nel. Brutal Tempest with Times Pulse for double Dragon's Roar triggers, then you Kanto out. That could be a fun alternative playstyle. Barricade is nice, but it's not going to stop every attacker, and that's going to include our last unit. The fourth unit for the banner is going to be Aided Yunaka. If you summon Yunaka, her aid accessory is a black cat. I'm sure that's a worthwhile investment for some. For this version, Yunaka is in her proper attire this time and is a colorless infantry dagger unit. Yunaka has 40 HP, 46 attack, 48 speed, 20 defense, and 32 res. Speed super boon and just excellent offensive stats to no surprise. For old skills, Yunaka has lethality, which she's going to trigger often. Yunaka also has full disarm, which negates traps and the raids, inflicts a good amount of speed and defense debuffs based on advantageous statuses, and then you get no guard. Yunaka's Hidden Blade is a 14 might slaying weapon. Each turn, if above 25% HP, she inflicts -7 speed and defense debuffs, sabotage, and discord on closest foes and foes within 2 spaces. If above 25% HP, Yunaka gets bonus attack and speed equal to 6 plus 20% of her flat speed. She does true damage equal to 20% in combat speed. She has breath type cooldown per hit. And finally, Yunaka gets instant -1 cooldown before her first attack and before her first follow-up attack. Generally speaking, pretty easy to understand offensive weapon. Yunaka inflicts debuffs which get doubled via sabotage, and she adds more debuffs against grouped up foes. Yunaka has Sling, breath type cooldown, and instant cooldown before her first attack and her first follow-up. With 3 cooldown Slaying lethality, Yunaka brings it down to 2 cooldown, and then she charges it on her first hit. She can trigger it on a second attack. Assassinations are going to get a little more complex with her unique A skill, Train to Kill. Yunaka has Pass, and this is because if any tile within 2 spaces meets any of the following conditions, Yunaka can warp onto that tile and any tiles within 2 spaces of that. In addition, she gets Brave attacks when initiating. The 4 conditions for this skill are if there is an ally, if that space has a Divine Vein active, if that space is defensive terrain, last, if that space counts as difficult terrain. Now, for combat, if initiating or near an ally, Yunaka can get +10 attack and speed, full no follow-up effects, and 50% DR piercing for all hits. Going back to the first part of the skill, Yunaka is a unit with 2 space warping and pass. Similar to Guidance 4, she can move around her ally, but Yunaka can also move around special terrain tiles. In the trailer, Yunaka has a forest tile within 2 spaces. That is difficult terrain for infantry since it hinders movement, so she can warp anywhere within 2 spaces of that. This is an incredible warping ability, and it comes with Pass, and it also gives Brave attacks. We aren't done yet, because Yunaka has one more assassination tool with Active Lookout. This is basically a side grade of Lookout Force, with one change. Everything else is the same, so the dagger unit gets Kanto 2, they can use distance swap during Kanto, and they get +4 attack and speed during combat. Instead of Lookout Force's attack and speed debuff neutralization, Active Lookout gives Desperation. Besides the status version for a couple support allies, Desperation 4 is still the main way to get this effect, at least from 4 HP. Now with Active Lookout, you can go for the double tap or instant quad attacks, and you can run a stronger offensive B skill like Speed Taker, Assassin Strike, or just one of the Disarm Trap variants. Active Lookout is quite good, but as usual, Desperation is hard countered by Hardy Bearing. For some tanks, that's a fairly common Sacred Seal, so you do need to be careful of that. Assuming Yunaka can avoid Hardy Bearing, her assassination plan is quite scary. First, she has massive warp range with Pass. It's not cross-map warping, but Yunaka can use terrain to her advantage. Before initiating, her 3 cooldown lethality drops to 2. The first hit has breath type cooldown and no guard, meaning lethality will get charged. With Brave attacks, Yunaka's second hit is lethality proc. Desperation will trigger, and she has no fault to guarantee quads if outspeeding. Before her third attack, 3 cooldown goes back to 2. Hit number 3 charges lethality. Hit number 4 procs it, just like before. In addition to 2 full DR piercing hard-hitting specials, Yunaka's first and third hits also have 50% piercing themselves. She can stack quite a lot of its speed and defense debuffs via sabotage support and full disarm. For utility, Yunaka can disarm Aether Raid traps and also Kanto away, plus she can swap during Kanto. Altogether, very fun complete kit. Hardy Bearing is the most dangerous counter because Yunaka has 0 defense. Scowl and Defensive Temple also mess up the double lethality procs, but if she quads, then she's still going to trigger at least 1 lethality. Certainly another unit who would love to abuse Emblem Rings Ring with Miracle support. For other skills, Full Disarm is the most replaceable, but its minus 12 speed and defense debuff potential is actually quite good. There is a use for Potent Disarm, but that doesn't have no guard. If you just wanted the no guard effect, then Speed Taker can be used, and it gives another 20% speed as true damage, while neutralizing speed debuffs. Assassin's Strike is another full damage option, and if Yunaka can't survive counters, then perhaps it's better to fight another day with Wind or Water Sweep. Not ideal, but they're an option. You can also use Miracle instead of Lethality, but you're not going to have a damage special, obviously. Now, for C skills, Fatal Smoke 4 can be used for total assassination potential, and Creation Pulse can offset Scowl. A Times Pulse effect can offset Scowl as well. If you wanted something a bit different than like the old AoE Yuri builds, you could use Pulse of Blades with an AoE special. Active Lookout is just too fun to miss out on though. Overall, Yunaka is quite scary, but I'm not sure her Brave Hits with Lethality are enough to get through the absurd tanking power currently going on. If you can trigger Desperation or get a Miracle effect though, then enemies will need to watch out. That'll be it for this banner. Yunaka's crazy warping is the wildest thing we haven't seen before. Speaking of warping, our Grand Hero Battle unit will be Gris. The last of the 4 Hounds will indeed get a unique weapon. It's got a built-in Emblem Ring effect, so better watch your backs. We'll talk more about Gris soon. Good luck on your summons, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.